Okay, to get us started, we're going to look at Andrea Duran on the Olympic team and Team USA. And she's going to take us through some of the things we do before we even swing the bat. So number one is a loose grip. Now, take a look at Andrea's hands, and she's wiggling her fingers before the pitch comes. So you can see she has a nice loose grip, and her hands are right about shoulder height. Her hands aren't crazy high above her head or too low. They're right about shoulder height. The next thing we're going to look at is her stance. So I'm going to draw some lines on here, and you can see she has a nice athletic stance. She has a slight bend to her knees and a slight bend to her waist. Nice athletic stance. The next thing we're going to look at is her stride. So she's going to load the weight on the inside of her back foot, pick up her front foot, and take a small stride towards the pitcher, and that's her stride. And if you look down here at the red line I'm going to draw, she strides right in line with the pitcher. She doesn't stride out this way in the bucket, and she doesn't stride close towards home plate. She strides right in line to the pitcher. And then the last thing is swing hard. And you can get a sense of how hard she swings. I'll play that again. And she hit this ball for a home run in one of the Olympic games. So again, when everything is in line, swing hard. Okay, now we're going to look at Mary's swing. Mary, you worked hard in the clinic. And I like it because if you look at your eyes, you just look like you want to hit the ball hard. And that's half the battle right there, is just wanting to hit the ball hard. So I think that's cool. As far as your stance goes, it's a good athletic stance. Your hands are nice. You're bent at the knees a little bit, bent at the waist. Everything looks good there. And then you load the weight on your back foot. And you take a little stride. One thing I'd watch is we want to stride right at the pitcher. We don't want to step out into the bucket or anything like that. So just watch your stride. You may want to work on that a little bit. And then as far as swinging hard, yeah, you take a good hard cut at the ball. Let's watch that again. Right there. So yeah, swinging hard. So as far as the beginning of your swing, looks pretty good so far. Okay, now we're going to look at how an elite softball player, Andrea Duran on the Olympic team, how she handles a few of the things that we worked on in the hitting camp. And number one is hiding the hands. And this is kind of the wind-up before we unwind and hit the ball hard. So if you notice, if you look in the red circle, we can see her hands there. And if you look at her number, it's a 2 and a something, but we can't read the other number. So she's going to hide her hands and do a little bit of an inward turn, and this is the wind-up before she swings. So I'm going to scroll through the swing here. You can see her hands, and then as the pitch comes, she hides her hands right at her shoulder, and now we can read her other number too. It's an 8. So let's watch that again. We can't read her number, and we can see her hands, and then as the pitch comes, she hides her hands and does a little bit of an inward turn, and that's the windup before the swing. So here's how an elite softball player hides her hands. All right, now we're going to look at Mary hiding her hands. And so we can see her hands right now. And if you watch, they go straight back and up, and that causes the tip of your bat to dip down. That's something you may want to work on fixing. So you start from there, and then from this position, now watch, now your hands go to your shoulder, and you hide your hands in the right spot. So ideally, we would just want to go, if we break that down into step 1 is here, step 2 is there, and step 3 is there, we just want to go from 1 to 3, and maybe skip step 2 so the bat doesn't dip down like that. But as far as getting to this position right there before you swing, that's right where you want to be. That looks pretty good. Okay, the second thing we're going to look at with Andrea Duran is her bat plane. And what we want to see is the bat staying on plane all the way through the swing. Now you can see that her bat right now is flat on her shoulder, and that's okay. It doesn't really matter where it's at right now because she's just in her stance and she's relaxed. But what we care about is at this position right here, right as she gets ready to swing, does her bat stay on plane? And if it does, that leads to a more powerful, efficient swing. So I'm going to draw a line right through here. And you can see that the bat and the lead arm and the shoulders are all on the same plane, and as she rotates around and swings, the bat stays on that plane and she follows through on that same plane. So this is a more powerful, efficient swing if you do this. So we get the bat on plane and it stays on plane and it doesn't drop down or do anything crazy through the whole swing. So that's called keeping your bat on plane. One more important thing about bat playing, and that's how do you do it? Well, you notice that Andrea Duran is not standing straight up and down. Her spine is tilted, and then that's how she's able to maintain that tilted axis as she swings the bat. She rotates along that tilted axis. And what her lead elbow does is very important. I'm going to plot it with a green line, and you're going to see that the lead elbow rotates up. It does not rotate flat, and therefore it rotates up along the same plane as the bat, right along the tilted axis, and that's how you do it. So make sure the lead elbow rotates up. Alright, now we're going to look at Mary's bat plane. And you do a whole lot of movement to get to the point that we need, but you start with your bat right there, and then your hands go up and the bat dips down, and then the bat comes back up again. But what we really care about is about right there. Once you get on plane with the pitch, does your arm and bat stay on plane? And you do a really good job of that. Your arm and the bat pretty much stay right on that plane, and they finish right on that plane too. So maybe you could clean up the beginning of the swing a little bit and not have all that wasted movement. But as far as your bat swinging on plane, it looks pretty good. Now we're going to take a look at Nikki Williams from the University of Washington. She's going to help us with our next few items. So now we're going to look at number 3, which is the back elbow. Now notice when she starts, she doesn't start with her back elbow really high and her front elbow really high. If you look at some girls, some of the younger girls, they start with their elbows really high. There's really nothing good that comes out of that. She starts in more of this upside down V position, which is a more relaxed way to start your swing. So then as she begins to swing, the back elbow comes up, but the important thing is it gets connected to the hip, and then the back elbow and the hip rotate at the same time all the way to impact. And then right when she hits the ball, her back elbow is bent. Now it straightens after she hits, but it is bent at impact. That's very important. We do not want a straight back elbow at impact. That means you're pushing at the ball, and that doesn't lead to a powerful swing. And also the back elbow is not creeping towards her belly button or getting ahead of the hip. What happens is the back elbow and the hip rotate at about the same time. Alright, now we're going to look at Mary's elbows. You start in a real nice relaxed position here. As you go, you can see your bat's dipping a little bit. You may want to work on that, but as far as the back elbow goes, it's connected to the hip right there. And now we're starting to swing. It's a little bit ahead of the hip, but right at impact, it's bent in that 90-degree angle, and that looks pretty good. So I would say your back elbow is rotating pretty much at the same time as your hip, which is good. Okay, now we're going to look at number 4, which is the palm up, palm down position. And here we have Nikki Williams from Washington and Katie Cochran on the right from Arizona State. And you can see right when they impact the ball, they are palm up and palm down. Their hands are not turning over as they hit the ball. They are palm up, palm down. And another important thing to look at right at impact is look at their lead leg. It is straight. So it moves. You can see here, we'll show Nikki Williams on the left. It's nice and loose and flexed all the way to impact, and then right at impact it locks. And same thing with Katie Cochran. It's just nice and loose and flexed, and then right at impact it locks. So here's our impact position. The lead leg is straight, the knee is firm, and we are palm up, palm down. Alright, now we're going to look at palm up, palm down and the lead leg on Mary. You can see in the circle, you're palm up, palm down. That's perfect. Keep doing that. That's exactly how you want your hands. Palm up, palm down when you impact the ball. And your lead leg is pretty straight too, so that looks good as well. So those two things look great. The two blue lines are your spine, and you're leaning forward a little bit when you impact the ball. Ideally, you actually want to be leaning back a little bit. So that's something you could work on, and that's not leaning forward when you hit the ball. But the palm up, palm down, and the lead leg look perfect. Okay, now we're going to look at the 5th thing, which is making sure that we use our whole body. And that means using Ikey-Mikey shoulders and rotating our back knee to face the pitcher. So first, let's just look at the knee. Here's Andrea Duran on the left. And let's make sure that she rotates and her back knee faces the pitcher. Sure does. So she has to come up and rotate up onto her back toes, and her back knee is facing the pitcher. And then if we look at Jessica Mendoza, same way, and the back knee faces the pitcher. So that makes sure that she's rotating her hips. So back knee and your belly button face the pitcher. Then we go back and look at the shoulders. And this is important. There's a couple things to look at here. So on the left here we have Duran. She's at Ike there. Her chin is touching her left shoulder. And then when she rotates, her chin touches her right shoulder. Ike Mikey. And then Jessica Mendoza, same way. There her chin touches her shoulder, Ike. And then when she rotates so much she rips the bat out of her backhand. And there she finishes at Mikey. So we're rotating the hips and the shoulders. But the big thing about the shoulder is if you watch over here, Andrea Duran, her front shoulder keeps her rotating all the way until she hits the ball. You can see that. And if we go back to Jessica over here, the front shoulder keeps rotating all the way until she would have hit the ball. So the shoulders keep rotating. What we're going to see in some of the swing analysis is that the front shoulder stops rotating, and then that's when they push their back arm. Okay, now we're going to look at back knee to pitcher and Ike Mikey shoulders. So let's see if Mary, when she swings, if she rotates her hips to get her back knee facing the pitcher and up on her back toe. Yes, she does. That looks perfect. So now let's look at Ike Mikey shoulders. And there you are, your chin's touching Ike, your front shoulder. Now your bat dips down a little bit, and that makes it so when you follow through, you never really get to Mikey with your back shoulder. So we could fix that a little bit. But you can work on rotating your shoulders a little bit faster and making sure that your back shoulder hits your chin too, and then that would be Ike to Mikey. Okay, and now the last thing we're going to look at is vision. Good hitters have good vision. They see the ball and they watch the ball all the way to their bat. So let's look at two of the best players that ever played the game. You can see Duran, she's looking right at the pitcher, and then as the ball comes in, her eyes track, and you can see right there, her eyes are now right on the ball, and then she hits the ball. So she has great vision and watches the ball all the way to her bat. On the right side, we have Mendoza. She's looking at the pitcher out this way right now, and you can see as the ball comes in, her eyes track that ball all the way to the bat. So good hitters have good vision, watch the ball hit the bat. Okay, now the last thing is your eyes. Are you watching the ball all the way to the bat? So here you are, you're looking at the pitcher, looking at the ball, and it looks to me like your eyes are still, they're close, but they're still looking out about this way. If your head was turned a little bit more, you'd be looking at the ball right here. So I think you could probably work on tracking the ball all the way to the bat just a little bit more, but not too bad. Looks pretty good.